We are now joined by one of the all-time greats if you're thinking defensively in the NFL, Mel Renfro, here on One-on-One. Mel, first, before we get into everything to do with Pork Rind Appreciation Day, working alongside Coach Ditka's Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund, first, let me just ask, how are you?
Good, real good. I've known Mike Ditka all my life, been lined up with him. If he calls, I come running. Pork Rind Day with the Super Bowl, I think, is a super opportunity to raise funds to help the former players with their physical and emotional needs.
Yeah, and with Pork Rind Appreciation Day being on Super Bowl Sunday yet again, the emphasis on it, of course, is to work alongside Coach Ditka's fund and, the guys who played the game and made the game what it is today, give them the help that they need, both mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it may be, so that, the hard hits they incurred on the field don't continue to have that lasting effect that they still might have. But before we get into all of that, Alex is donning a University of Oregon polo, your alma mater. And when we're looking at your bio, Mel, and I was reading on your Wikipedia page, it says that even at one point in your time at Oregon, we knew you played both halfback and then you also played in the secondary a little bit, but you were also at one point the backup quarterback,
Right.
at least according to Wikipedia. So we were both just curious, and you ran track and were an All-American track runner in the hurdles and the high jump. We're just wondering, we saw how prolific you were in the NFL as a defender, and then you played a little bit at running back too, but because of an injury, you got moved to the defensive side of the ball, all-pro safety, then switched to corner, all-pro corner. Clearly, you're just an athlete. But we were just wondering, how does that shape up in the college setting where you're not only getting touches in the backfield, but you're running as a hybrid backup quarterback? Were you doing like QB sets in practice or anything, or is that just if everything fails, we'll just run a wildcat with Mel just taking the ball every time?
Well, fortunately, I was a gifted child. As a little kid, I was always the captain. I was always the leader. I was always drawing up the plays and telling the other little kids what to do. So when I reached high school, my freshman year, I was breaking sophomore and senior records in track, and sophomore playing varsity. I just had incredible talent, God-given talent, and I loved the game. I mean, when I wasn't playing on Friday night, I was in the park on Sunday morning, throwing the ball around. So I was just that type of guy that athletics, sports was in my blood, and God given the talents that I had. In track, I could jump 26 feet. I could high jump 6'6", pole vault 17 feet. So I was versatile and could do a lot of things. So, I just felt fortunate that I was able to have the career that I had, not only high school, college, but in the pros, but just feel fortunate that still at this time and age, that I feel not too bad. A few aches and pains there, but still feel pretty good.
And something kind of on that note, Mel, that Keenan just talked about is you were almost a wild card doing so many different things in college, and then you make the jump to the NFL, and instead of playing as a running back, you start off as in the secondary as a safety. And I'm curious for you, talking about all those different skills you had, what was it like for you making the jump from college to the pro levels and then having so much success with the Cowboys?
Oh, no problem. I could play it all. I could play, and I was high school. I was a quarterback. In high school, you never left the field. A quarterback, a safety, punts, extra points. It was easy for me, and I thank God for the abilities that He gave me to be able to do those things, and playing with the guys that I played with. We like I say, on Sunday we were playing in the park, so we were good friends on and off the field, and we had great coaches. Had a good time. We had fun. And you can say that all that hard work and the successes resulted in just a whole lot of fun, and you feel like you've accomplished something.
And so now switching over to Pork Rind Appreciation Day, I was sitting in an interview with Kenny Houston, another former great, NFL secondary player, Hall of Famer, all that good stuff. and he was from the South, and you were born in Texas, but you recently moved to Oregon. But Kenny was telling us all about, growing up, he was eating pork rinds, and kind of gave me and another host, Chris Hennessy, who works alongside me and Alec, the rundown on what makes a good pork rind. So my question to you, Mel, is did you have pork rinds growing up in Oregon, or was the West Coast, already more advanced than the East Coast as we're seeing these days?
Well, actually, I was born in Houston, Texas, and I moved from Houston when I was 2.5 years old to Portland, Oregon, and played high school, grade school, high school. Of course, went to the University of Oregon, but I'm a Texas guy from the start. Although I was, did my Oregon stuff, I started out in Texas, and Kenny Houston's a very good friend of mine. I just love him to death. I love his family, his wife, his kids, his grandkids. And, we spent a lot of time together and get along well. And when we just enjoy the opportunity to team up with Mike Ditka, Gridiron Greats and the Pork Rind people, to do what we can to give back to those former players that are having the mental and physical issues, and that's what it's all about. We were giving gifts as young kids, the ability to do what we did, to make the money we made, and now we have the opportunity to give back, and the Gridiron Greats and Pork Rind people teaming up with Super Bowl. There's no better way to do that, to play and have fun, raise money, and help others.
And it's something you just mentioned there, Mel, that's so important is the fact that you've been lucky enough to have, a successful career after retiring and from the game in terms of staying physically and mentally healthy. But that's kind of, as you mentioned, the impact that the Gridiron Greats Assistance Program has had. And I'm just curious for you, kind of what was your inspiration for getting involved in that? How did you get started? And you kind of mentioned some of the reasons it's been so impactful, but what has been your experience kind of being a part of this and seeing how important that it is?
Well, first of all, Mike Ditka, I played against Mike. I watched him play as a kid, and then played against him, played with him in Pro Bowls. He became a coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And, when a guy like that asks you to do something, you're not going to turn him down. I mean, you want to do it out of your heart anyway, but he's such a great guy, and has a big heart and does so much that I just love having the opportunity to team up with him, and such a worthy cause. And the Pork Rind people, the way they put it together and teaming up with the Gridiron Greats, it's all one big party, and we're looking forward to a great Super Bowl and raising a lot of money for these players that need it.
And to touch on, the pork rinds a little bit more, it's through Southern Recipe, which is the leader in pork rind sales. When you look at pork rinds, they've really created not only an environmentally friendly product, but also a product that's good for your body, which I think is becoming more of an emphasis in the NFL today, in the sense that guys are really looking after their nutrition, and when they're not on the field, they're putting forth their best effort to stay fit, both mentally and physically, and nutritionally through the off season. And Mel, my question to you is, you look at a brand like Southern Recipe that's trying to do all those check all those boxes, staying away from carbs, high protein, only 5 grams of fat. My question to you is, obviously you played in an era, removed from me and Alex because we're young, but having such a dominant career, I was just wondering, from your perspective on the game today, how important is it that, maybe if you're not eating pork rinds, but we've seen the Tom Brady diet, how important is it that, whether you're in the NFL or if you're just guys like us who like to sit and watch, how important is it to, fuel your body with something like Southern Recipes pork rind to keep yourself fit, even though it's a tasty snack as well?
Well, athletics, any athletics, particularly football, is a brutal sport. And you have to be in the best shape. You have to work hard to maintain a strong, healthy body. And being able to eat the pork rind and know that it has what it takes to keep your body well and strong and healthy, and it gives you that energy to go that extra step. And it's just whoever thought this idea up with Mike Ditka, the great Gridiron Greats and the Pork Rinds and the Super Bowl, was a mastermind. And I think it's a great combination of things to come together for a great cause, and helps, like we say, those players that weren't so fortunate and have those physical and mental needs, and we're there to help them.
For all of our listeners, you can enter some contests that Southern Recipe's putting on, as well as order their product at porkrindappreciationday.com. And Alex, I'm going to turn it over for you to a question.
Well, I think the big thing there is that we talk about Pork Rind Appreciation Day is celebrated on the Super Bowl every year, obviously. And this year, I think, Mel, it's probably a really exciting Super Bowl for you because the Dallas Cowboys are a little bit more in the mix than usual. So I'm curious for you. You mentioned you're a Texas guy at heart. What has it been like watching the Cowboys this year, trying to get back to success again like you had?
I'm excited. They've been a little bit inconsistent, but I see a nucleus there of guys that are good enough. They're good enough. And they play well if they're all healthy, and it comes down to the line. I think those Cowboys could possibly end up in LA, and I guarantee you I'll be right there with them. Me, Mike Ditka, the Gridiron Greats, and the Pork Rind people will be there to root those Cowboys on.
Alex, you took the question right out of my mouth.
I mean, come on now.
Wearing a Cowboy shirt, a Cowboy for life in the Ring of Honor. Just before we let you go, obviously all pros, you're a defensive MVP in the league. Is the Ring of Honor the most special award you received? I'm a Colts fan, so I'm seeing the guys that I grew up watching, the Robert Mathises, the Reggie Waynes, the Marvin Harrison, Peyton, all those guys get into the Colts Ring of Honor. But to speak with somebody who's taken part in that tradition, I'm just wondering how special it is for you to have an organization recognize you as one of the best in the faces of their franchise.
It means everything. It means everything. I'm approaching 80 years old, and I go back and I remember being 6 and 7 years old watching the old guys play. Now I'm one of those guys that can reflect back on that and so how special it is to have been a player, and nowadays to be someone who can appreciate the game and admire the game, and root those guys on so they can keep doing what they're doing.
Well, Mel, we really do appreciate you stopping by. Everyone, you can learn more about the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund on Facebook at Official Gridiron Greats. You can learn more about Southern Recipe at southernrecipe.com. Pork Rind Appreciation Day is on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not an NFC fan. I don't know where Alex falls in terms of fandom, so we can maybe cheer for the Cowboys to get there. Ideally, I'd love to see the Colts, but who knows if they have the consistency. But you can go on Pork Rind's Appreciation Day to enter in so many contests that could get you out to LA for the Super Bowl. Be sure to follow Southern Recipe on Facebook and Instagram at Southern_Recipe, and on Twitter at Southern Recipe. Mel, we really appreciate you stopping by. You're obviously one of the greats in terms of football, and it's nice to, I spoke with Kenny Houston earlier this semester, and it's nice that you guys, take time out of your day, not only to talk with us, but you really emphasize the fact that getting the help for the game's greats is so important and something that cannot be stressed enough moving forward.
Well, you're certainly welcome. It was great spending time with you, and you guys have a great day.
Thanks, Mel. Take care.
You bet.